We begin today the Gemara on Daf Mem Vav Amud Aleph, 4 lines down from the top of the Amud. Masiv Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. The Gemara here is discussing a machlokes between Rabba and Abaye regarding Pshat in the Mishnah that said that Uman ein lechazake, a craftsman, for example, a tailor that has garments in his possession. So the Mishnah says he can't come and claim that the fact that I have it is proof that it's mine, like it usually is with metaltalin, because we know that he's a tailor and he got it to do an alteration. So there's no chazaka for this. Now here there was a machlokes though. Abaye learned the Mishnah kipshutai. As long as we see the talis in the hand of the tailor, it doesn't make a difference if we have edim, how it got to his possession, or we don't have edim. Doesn't matter. Since he's a tailor, he can't claim any chazaka on it. Rabba, however, disagreed. Rabba said that just the fact that we see it in his hands, he could establish a chazaka, even though he's a tailor. Why? Because Rabba says that you have a migu. You could say that this talis I never got from you. I have it in my hands. Could be it once belonged to you, but I got it from someone else. You probably sold it to someone else, and I got it from someone else. It has nothing to do with you. And then that person sold it to me. So since he has a migu, he does have a chazaka on it. And therefore Rabba adds, the only time you don't have a migu is when there's edim that this person gave it to you. Only if there's both edim and we see it now in his possession, then the uman will not have a chazaka. So the Gemara asks on this, on Rabbe, from what the Mishnah itself says. Most of Rav Nachman by Yitzchak. So Rav Nachman by Yitzchak asks, the Mishnah says, uman ein lechazake, a craftsman, a tailor, does not have a chazake, and if there's a garment in his possession. So what do we understand from this Mishnah? Uman hu de ein lechazake. This uman, he doesn't have a chazaka. Ha acher. But someone else that has a garment or any object in his possession similar to the way the uman has it, yesh lechazaka. He could claim a chazaka, he could claim it's his, and he'll be believed and it'll be approved by the fact that it's in his possession. So now what's the case here? Hey chidomi, what is the case that we say that by the uman there is no chazaka, but someone else that has it similar to the uman, it is a chazaka? If there's witnesses that this person that's not claiming it's his gave it to you, in other words, similar to the uman, just like by the uman, there's edim that say that we saw that this person gave this garment for an alteration to the tailor. So similar by the acher, by stam another person, there's edim that saw that this person gave you this object as a pekodin. So acher ama yesh lechazakeh. Why, by anyone else, even not a tailor, should there be any chazaka? There's edim that saw that he gave it to you just to hold for him. So you must say, the lek edim. When it says in the Mishnah regarding a uman that there's no chazaka, and it's saying specifically the uman, but anybody else that would be a chazaka, it must be that there's no edim that saw that he gave it to you. Vikatani, and the Mishnah makes a distinction and says, uman ein lechazaka. That by a uman, even without edim, just the fact that we see that garment now in the possession of the uman, that's enough of a reason for us to say that the uman can't claim that he bought it, and we know that the uman, his derech is to have it for alterations, and therefore he has no chazakah. And by somebody else, when someone else has an item in his possession, and he claims that he bought it from you, and he has it, that will be a raya, that it's his. That's the distinction the Mishnah is making. So to Yufta the Rabbe, this refutes what Rabbe says, that by a uman there's no chazaka only when there is edim that you got it from that person. To Yufta, this refutes Rabbe's pshat in our Mishnah. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in Abraisa. Nischalfuloi kelim bekelim beveisa uman. What happens if garments with garments got exchanged by the house of a tailor or by a cleaners, let's say? You give your suit to the cleaners and you get back a different suit, or by a tailor or something like that, which could happen. Yeah, you get something else back. You have the right to use this other garment that you got back, even though it's not yours, until the true owner comes back and exchanges the coat or the suit or whatever it is with yours. So that's when it's by a Beisa Uman. The Beisa Oval, however, if you exchange coats or whatever it is in the house of an Oval, or by Beisa Mishte, or by a Chasana, or for that matter, in Shul, you took a coat, someone took your coat, and someone else left his coat there. You don't have the right to use that other person's garment until he comes and takes back his and exchanges back his coat with yours. It's not yours. You don't have the right to use it. So, yeah, I believe so.
Happy winter.
So the Gemara, So the Gemara asks the question: Ma'ishna reisha or ma'ishna seifa? What's the difference between the reisha and the seifa? What it says in the seifa is l'chayr understood because it's not yours. True, it was exchanged. You have bad luck, but it doesn't matter. You can't use someone else's garment. But why in the reisha are we saying that by a beisa uman, if it gets exchanged, that you could use it? So the Gemara answers, Omar Rav, Havi Yisivne, Kamei de Chavivi. I was sitting in front of my uncle, and this is Rab Chia, Va'amali, and my uncle Rab Chia told me that the explanation is as follows. V'chiein Adam Osoi, Loima lo Uman. Is it not common that what happens is a person says to a craftsman, in other words, a person gives a garment to a tailor, and then he tells this tailor, M'chayli talisi. Sell me my garment to someone. I'll pay you for it. Sell me this garment to someone else. That's what could happen in the case of a tailor. So therefore, what could have happened over here when you got this garment that's not yours from a tailor, that this tailor was asked by somebody to sell his garment, and instead, what that tailor did is he exchanged your garment with that garment that he was supposed to sell, and he sold your garment to someone else. And now he already gave money to this person for that garment that he sold that's really yours. And now when you're getting this garment, it's a different garment from someone, so that really, you're allowed to use it because the one that it belongs to told the tailor to sell it. So you're not using somebody's garment that belongs to him. The tailor told him to sell it. He already got money for it. Elamai, instead of selling your garment, instead of selling that person's garment, he by mistake sold your garment. So when you're using it now, you're using a garment that person agreed should be sold. So therefore, since that's a very big possibility, so we say that you can use it. Mashenkin, in the case of a Beis Av or Beis Hamishta, over here, you're using someone else's garment. You can't use it. Rav Chia bereid Rav Nachman. So however, Rav Chia, the son of Rav Nachman, he gave certain limitations to this svara regarding by a tailor. So lo yishanu, this is only said Elohu. That's only if the tailor himself is giving you someone else's garment. And then we say the tailor himself has the cheshbon, and he was thinking that the garment he's giving you is the garment that he's supposed to be selling, and he gave you the wrong garment. He was supposed to sell another person's garment. By mistake, he sold your garment, and now he's giving you another garment of another person. But really, he's doing this because he's supposed to be selling that person's garment. But if it's the tailor's wife or children that came and gave you this garment, so they don't know of this cheshbon that the person that owns that other garment asked the tailor to sell. They just see in the shop the alterations that have to be done, or in the cleaners, whatever it is, and they just gave you the garment, and therefore in such a case they made a mistake. They gave you someone else's garment. It's no different than Beis Ha'avel and Beis Hamishna. You're not allowed to use it. And v'hu nami, the tailor himself, lo yamaran, what we said before, that you can use it, is not said, elo de omale talistam. When the tailor tells him, here, take this talis. He's not telling him, here, take back your talis. He's saying, here, take this talis. Then we could say the svara we said before, that the tailor is giving you a talis because he's selling someone else's talis. Aval talischa lohi. But if the tailor says talischa, here, take your talis, so then this cheshbon we said before does not apply. Then we just assume that the tailor meant to give you back your talis, and the other person he meant to give him back his talis. There was no sale that was going on over here, and he Pashat made a mistake. So if you made a mistake in such a case, you can't use a talis that's not yours. So high lav talis dideyu. This talis is not yours, and therefore you can't use it. Okay. No.
You see, because if he knows it's your talis, so why is he giving a different talis? If you're saying talischa, he knows it's yours. Okay, but anyways.
No, when he says the lashon talischa, there's an assumption that he's just giving back the job from the alterations. That's Rashbam explains it here. Amalei Abaye l'Rava. In connection to this, Abaye says to Rava, "Ta achviloch ramoy de Pumbedisa." Let me come and show you the Ramoyim, the thieves of the city of Pumbedisa, Mayavdi. What do? Amalei, a person comes and tells a tailor, Havli sar beloy, give me back my coat that you did a job on it. And the person answers, the tailor answers, Never happened. I never got any coat from you. So the person says, but ha'isli sadi, I have edim, the chazua gabach. They saw my coat by you. Now, what these edim saw by this tailor, they didn't mamish clearly see that coat is his coat. They saw a coat that looked just like his coat that he gave to the tailor, and so therefore he says, edim saw a coat that you have that looked just like my coat. On Malay, so the tailor argues back and says, no, that was a different coat. It's not your coat. So the person asks, you know what? Bring it out. Let's see this coat. On Malay, so the tailor says, no, I'm not. The truth is, in fact, I'm not going to show you. I'm not going to allow you to see that coat to see if it's actually yours or not. Okay, so here Abaye is saying that this is the thieves of Humpedisa. Why doesn't he want to show him the coat to see if it's actually his or not? Because if he's going to see, it says he doesn't want to give it back. That's the Geneva. Okay, so about this, Rava said, Shapik Amalei. No, that the tailor is actually right. He doesn't have any responsibility to go and show other people's coats to you. He's claiming that it's not your coat. You don't have Adam that clearly saw your coat in his possession. You have Adam that saw a coat that looked very similar to your coat, and you think it's yours. There could be more than one that looks the same. And he says, I never got a coat from you, and I'm not interested in showing to you other people's coats. So this is not Geneva at all. Why should we? What he's saying is right. And Rava comes and proves his point. He says, Ra Tanya. When we learned before in the Braisa that by a uman there's no chazakeh, what did we say? Ra, if you see your garment in the possession of this tailor, then we say that he has no chazakeh, and you know for sure it's yours, and then you can take it back. But in this case, the Eidim saw a coat that looked like yours, but they didn't clearly see that it's yours. So in such a case, he can just claim this. It never happened, and he has no obligation to come and show you that coat to see if it's yours or not. But on Ravashi, on this Ravashi says, V'chakim, if this person trying to get back his coat is smart and he wants the tailor to show it to him to see if it's his or not, mashvilera, he can play with this tailor and get him to show the coat. The Amalei, he tells him, why are you holding on to this coat and you're not interested in showing it to me? You're keeping it for yourself. Lav mishum de islach gabai. Is it because I owe you a few $100, the value of this coat, and you want to keep the coat instead of the money that I owe you? You're afraid I'm not going to pay you. So you tell him, Hashte afkinu v'sheminu. Take out the coat. Let's evaluate what the value of the coat is. And shkoil atidach, and you'll take what's yours. I'll pay you money. I'll give you the money that I owe you for it. And v'ashkol adidi, and let me take back my coat. So you're playing with him. You're sort of telling him, I'll give you the money instead of the coat. And then the moment he takes out the coat, and now you see it, and you point, now you have Aiden that will come and testify that this actually is your coat. And once you see it, then he doesn't have a chazak over it, and you're not going to give him a penny. So Ravashi says to Ravashi, it's not necessarily going to work, because Matzi Amalei, the tailor, will say to him, I don't need to take out the coat and to assess its value to see how much it is that I'm keeping it instead of the money that you owe me. Once before, professionals already evaluated this coat. I know exactly what the value of the coat is. I don't have to bring it out for you. In other words, he'll catch on to the fact that he's just trying to play with him to get him to bring out the coat, and he's not going to necessarily show it to him. And if you don't see it, then you don't. You say that the Uman doesn't have a chazakah. In such a case, the Uman has the chazakah, and he can claim he could say that I never got a coat from you. The next case,
Just the mashal lately is about this parasha, about the sharing the garment. The third base of Mikdash.
The garments of the mashal of Shabbos Chazain.
Yeah.
Maybe she shows it to us. Yeah. Sagt the Gemara weiter, it says in the Mishnah, Aris ein le chazakeh. A sharecropper in a field has no chazakeh. He's doing the work there, and a sharecropper gets a certain percent of the produce. And if he's here in the field for 3 years, he has no chazakeh. So the Gemara asks him this, why not? Amai. Why doesn't he have a chazakeh? Up until now, palga. He was only getting 50% of the fruits, or whatever percent it is. V'hashtekula. Now he's getting it all. He's taking all the produce for himself for 3 years. The owner didn't get anything. So and the owner wasn't moiche for 3 years. He allowed him to take everything. So it should be a chazaka if he claims that he now bought it. Rabbi Yochanan answers, you're right. By a regular aris, there would not this nalacha would not be true. It's a chazaka. Over here, though, it's talking about ba'arise bate avis. It's talking about these sharecroppers that work in a property. They're here already for generations. And their minig and the way they work in the properties is different than regular sharecroppers. Regular sharecroppers get 50% or whatever percent of the produce. By them, they're here for years and years. They work and get all of the produce of the field for 2 or 3 years, and then the owner takes from other years. So they split the years. They don't split the percent of the produce. So the fact that they are there for 2 or even 3 years straight, getting all the produce for themselves, is not a raya that they bought it. It's that's the minig of these arisei bate yavis, that they're there for a long period of time to take everything for themselves. Rav Nachman said, Aris shahayred arisen tachtov. A person that's a sharecropper, and he brought other sharecroppers to work in the field instead of himself. Yesh lechazake. In such a case, if he comes and claims that I bought the field, now I'm the owner, and I hired other sharecroppers to work for me. I used to be the sharecropper working for the owner, but look, I hired other people to work for me, and now I'm the owner. So over here, in such a case, he does have a chazakeh. My time, what's the reason? Because the loy ovid inish, the nochsi arisa la'are v'shasik. It's not a usual thing that a person hires a sharecropper, and that sharecropper that he hires other sharecroppers, and the original sharecroppers just take off. You're not going to trust other sharecroppers to be in the field without the sharecroppers that you hire to be there to make sure that the job gets done right. So the fact that the original owner allowed these sharecroppers to hire others, so if they claim that what happened really here is that we bought the property, they'll be believed. Rav Yochanan says, Aris shachalak larisim. If the case, though, is that this sharecropper that was hired didn't just leave and bring in other sharecroppers, he brought other sharecroppers with him to help him, then ein lechazake. Then if this sharecropper says, oh, look, I bought other sharecroppers to help me, and it's because I'm now the owner of the field, and I'm here for 3 years in this way, that's not a chazake. My time, why not? Because that they have permission to bring other sharecroppers to help them in their work. And this is something that the owner that hired these sharecroppers is not makbid on. The fact that they are bringing other people to help them, as long as he's staying there with them, that he's doing the work together with them. So they're not just leaving. So in such a case, it's no proof that you bought the field. Sholach le Rav Nachman bar Rav Chisda le Rav Nachman bar Yaakov. Rav Nachman, the son of Rav Chisda, asks Rav Nachman, the son of Yaakov, Yilamdeinu Rabbeinu, our teacher should teach us, Oris, Meid or Eine Meid. If you're a sharecropper on a property, and now there's a problem with this property that someone is trying to take it away from the owner, and you want to come and testify on behalf of the owner that you were hired by him, and that he's living here, that he used it, could you come and testify on behalf of your employer, of the owner of the field, or not? Or you can't testify. So the question is, should you say that they're negei beidus? Why would they want to testify on behalf of the one that hired them? Because then they'll get their share of their job that they're doing in the field. If someone else confiscates the property, so then they're not going to get anything. So are they negei beidus or not? So Rav Yosef Kamei, Rav Yosef was sitting in front of Rav Nachman bar Yaakov, and Amalei, and he answered, Hachiyah Shmuel, this is what Shmuel said, Oris Meid, that a sharecropper could testify on behalf of the owner of the field, and he's not a negei beidus. So, let's see. So the Gemara asks on this, what Tanya, but in Abraisa we learned that they cannot testify, and the reason is obvious, because they want to get the share that they were hired by this person and not allow someone else to confiscate it. And says the Gemara, like Hashia, it's not a contradiction. If it was already in the season where they did their work and there's produce there in the field that they want to get for themselves, so then they can't testify on behalf of their owner. They're in the gay beidus. And the leke paid about it. Over here, it's when there's no paydas, they didn't do any work, and they're not losing whether this person is going to have it, whether another person is going to have it. The Rashbam here adds, the case here has to be that these sharecroppers, if they're going to lose their job in this field because it's going to be confiscated by someone else, there's other fields they can go to. There's enough properties in the area that they can easily get a job somewhere else. and they're not going to lose anything from the work that they did here, that they won't get the paytis. So in that case, they're not a negei beidus at all, so they can testify. That was what Shmuel said. Amalek siman. So this is very unusual. The Gemara gives such a kind of siman with the word Amalek, which refers to ayin is orev, mem is malve, and lamed is lekeach, and kuf is kablan. The halachas the Gemara is going to speak about now. But the fact that the Gemara uses such a kind of siman is very interesting. I think the Yavitz over here talks about this. Why does the Gemara use a word that the Torah says machitim chazecher Amalek as a siman? Okay, so let's see the halachas. We'll see a part of this brayse today because it goes over in the next daf, Hemshech. Tan Rabbanim, we learned in the brayse. Arev meid leloive. A guarantor that you go to him for the payment of a loan if the borrower is not paying his loan. So this guarantor could testify on behalf of a borrower regarding any issue that he has with a property. If the loiva owns a property and someone is coming and challenging his ownership, and the Arev wants to testify on behalf of the loiva, he's allowed to. Now the question is, why? The Arev is gaining by this. If this property is taken away from this borrower, so now the borrower won't have how to pay his loan, and now the lender is going to come to the guarantor to get payment. So they're negei beidus. So therefore the Gemara clarifies, V'hu, the islay arach riti. And that's only in a case where the borrower anyways has another property to pay the loan. So it doesn't make a difference to you whether this property will be taken away or not. The guarantor is not going to lose out if it's going to be taken away. There's another place where to collect the loan from. And the Rashbam here adds, we're not going to be chayshish that the guarantor is saying this edus because he's worried maybe this borrower owes money to more than one person, so by taking away this property it's going to limit his options of paying up, and then he's going to end up losing it. That's already too far of a chash. If right now we know regarding this loan he has another property to collect from, then the Arev can testify it's not no negei beidus. Malve meid leloive. A lender could also testify on behalf of a loive, on behalf of a borrower, that someone wants to take away his property. So over here as well, the malva could be saying this edus for his own gain, because he wants the loive to have that property to be able to collect from him. Yeah, that's where he has his lien on. If his house is confiscated, so then he won't have what to pay. If he's going to default on his loan, so what's going to happen? Where is he going to collect his payment from? So again, it's only v'hu the islay arachriti. That's only if the borrower has another property, so the lender is not saying this edus for his own gain. Another halacha, lekeach rishain meid lekeach sheni. When you have a person that sold two properties, there's the first buyer and there's the second buyer. And now the second buyer, someone is challenging the ownership of his field. So the first buyer can come and testify on behalf of the second buyer. And v'hu the islay arachriti. And this is also only in a case where the second buyer has another property. So over here, why does he have to have a second buyer? Because if the seller of both of these properties has a loan that has to be collected, and the seller doesn't have any property of his own that any of his Baal Chayiv could come and collect from him, what happens? Who does the Baal Chayiv of the seller go to? He goes to the last buyer. When a borrower sells properties and a Baal Chayiv could then collect from buyers, you go to the last one that was sold. We learned this in Gemara and Bava Basra. Always the last one that was sold, that's the place where the Baal Chayiv comes and collects from. So over here, the Baal Chayiv is going to come to the Lekeach Sheni to collect this property. So now the Lekeach Rishon can be a negei beidus. If this property is confiscated from the Lekeach Sheni, so that means it never belonged to the seller, so the Baal Chayiv is going to take the property instead from the Lekeach Rishon. So that's why he wants the property to remain at the possession of the Lekeach Sheni. So therefore, if the seller or the Lekeach Sheni has another property that he sold to him afterwards, then it's not a problem, because either way, that Baal Chayiv of the seller is going to go to that other property. So over here, if the Lekeach Rishon is testifying on behalf of the Lekeach Sheni, it won't be a problem. That's the halacha that the Gemara says. The Rashbam also talks about the opposite kind of case, whether the Lekeach Sheni could testify on behalf of the Lekeach Rishon. What's if someone wants to confiscate a property from the Lekeach Rishon? Could the Lekeach Sheni testify on his behalf? So the Rashbam says, if the seller, when he sold the property to the Lekeach Rishon, sold it ba'achrayis, he took responsibility that if it's going to get confiscated from you, I'll reimburse you. So then the Lekeach Sheni can't testify for the Lekeach Rishon, because if the property of the first Lekeach gets confiscated, then the Lekeach Rishon is going to collect from the Lekeach Sheni for this loss. But if he didn't take any achrayis then he sold to the Lekeich Rishon, and he says it's your risk. So then the Lekeich Sheni could testify for the Lekeich Rishon because he's not going to come back to him to collect from him.